Hey everyone, and welcome to Math 20, Chapter 1, Slope and Rate of Change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the first little subtopic of Chapter 1. So we're going to start with 1.1, so rise over run. Uh, so when we start that, in your workbook, it talks to you about ratio and proportion. What you really need to understand from ratio is that that's just, it's like for lack of a better term, it is a ratio, and it really gives you like the ratio between two things. So for example, here you've got 15 liters of gas for every 1 liter of oil. Okay. Now, as soon as you start taking two ratios and putting them together, that's when you get a proportion. Okay. So here, what you've got is for every 15 liters of gas, you've got 1 liter of oil. Well, that also means that for 30 liters of gas, you've got 2 liters of oil. All right. So a reminder that when you cross multiply, you've got to take the top number and multiply it by the bottom number. So whenever you go diagonally, you actually multiply. All right, so 15 times 2 is 30, and then you divide when you go across. So 30 divided by 1 just gives you 30. All right. Example 1 here. So this is all solved already for you guys, but just to kind of talk about it. So what's the ratio of corn to kidney beans? Um, so for corn to kidney beans, you've got 15 ounces of corn, you've got 30 ounces of kidney beans. So that's a ratio of 15 to 30. Except you can't just leave it as a ratio of 15 to 30 just because of the fact that both these numbers would have a common factor. So a common factor means a number that you can divide both of these by, and then thus simplifying the fraction. And that's what they do here. So they go 15 to 30, except they divide the top and the bottom by 30. When I say top and bottom, I'm looking at this as a fraction, like 15 over 30. So they divide 15 by 15, they divide 30 by 15, and you get a 1 to 2 ratio. So a 15 to 30 ratio is a 1 to 2 ratio. All right? And that's kind of the same thing they do with tomatoes to kidney beans. So you've got 56 ounces of tomatoes to 30 ounces of kidney beans, and that's where they go and write 56 to 30. The greatest common factor between these two is 2. So they divide the top number by 2, they divide the bottom number by 2, and that way they're isolating, or they're simplifying 28, 15. All right. Okay, so you've got a few build your skills questions that you guys can try out. Um, so this one here is really just asking for the ratio of water to, concentrate to water. Okay, so water, what is the ratio? Concentrate to water. Yeah, so concentrate to water. Okay. And then of course that's 250 to 750, but make sure that you are simplifying that. Okay. Here, what is the ratio of blue paint to yellow paint? So here, if you've got 2.3 liters of blue paint, 1.7 liters of yellow paint, well, you write those up. Just make sure. The thing with fractions, because this would be 2.3 over 1.7, the thing with fractions is that we don't want decimals. Okay, so decimals are not nice. So um, the usual way you would go about getting rid of this is just multiplying top and bottom by 10. So if I'm multiplying 2.3 by 10, that becomes 23. And if I'm multiplying 1.7 by 10, that becomes 17. Okay. Yeah, so go ahead and try these out. I'm going to move on to example 2. Um, and then let's just move on to example 2, and then we'll take a look at this. So you've got a big screen TV, and it's got a ratio of 16 to 9. And then it tells you that for every 16 inches of width, you've got 9 inches of height. So here they set up your ratio, all right? And then it asks you, what is the height of a TV that's 40 inches wide? So here's your 40 inches right here. So if you're going with height over width, then you better make sure that on the other side of your proportion, on this ratio, you also have height, or what was it? Did I say height over width? What is the height of a TV that is 40 inches wide? Yeah, so this is width over height. Sorry, so this right here is width, and this is width, and then this is height right here. Okay, so you just got to make sure that you do set them up appropriately. And then once you've got your proportions set up, then you just take this and you multiply it by that. So whenever you go diagonally, that's when you multiply. And then whenever you go vertically or horizontally, you divide. So 40 times 9 divided by 16 gives you 22.5. So we've got a few more questions here you can try out. And now we're moving on to slope. And slope is really just an expression of a change in vertical distance over a change in horizontal distance. So here you've got rise over run, and that's really it. And then here they give an example. Calculate the slope of a line that rises by 12 for a run of 8. So again, a rise is a vertical change, a run is a horizontal change. So here you've got 12 over 8, and then of course you'd have to simplify that. And that's what they do here. They set it up as 12 over 8, but then they simplify it. Okay, so they divide both top and bottom by 4, which is the greatest common factor. So divide by a common factor. You get 3 over 2, so that's your slope. Okay. The slope can also be expressed as a decimal, so having 3 over 2 as 1.5 is okay. So here you can kind of like try out these questions. Now here it gives you the slope. For example, 4, the slope of a line is 7 over 20. What is the rise if the run is 100 meters? So again, a reminder that the top number here, the numerator, is actually the rise, and the bottom number here is the run. Okay, so that means 7 over 20, that's your slope, that's the rise, that's the run. And if you're provided with the run of a, what's the rise, like following this formula right here, or this law, which tells you that for every 7 you go up, you go 20 horizontally. Here it says, what is the rise if the run is 100 meters? So you set up your proportion. Okay, so 7 over 20 equals, and then your rise, which is what you're trying to figure out, right, over your run, which is in this case 100. And then once again, you can just go 7 times 100 divided by 20 to get rise. All right, so that's your cross multiplying. Again, diagonally is multiplying, across horizontally or vertically is dividing. Okay, so the rise they found out was 35 meters. And you can go ahead and try out some of those builder skills questions. And moving on to example 5. So Harbinger is building a ramp in 2 sections, both with the same slope. If one section rises by 2 meters for a run of 6.5 meters, how much will it have to rise for the remaining run of 9.8 meters? So again, this is really just about setting up your proportions. So you've got a rise of 2 over a run of 6.5, so rise over run, that's your slope. Here it is. Okay, and it's asking you how much will it have to rise for the remaining run. So here you've got to figure out what the rise is for a run of 9.8, and again you cross multiply 9.8 times 2 divided by 6.5 to get x. In this situation it's about 3.02. And so yeah, so that gives you kind of the basics for trying out questions 11, 12, and 13 there. And also to practice your new skills. So those questions are all for assignment. You probably should do these. So these are on page 17, 18, 19, and then we're gonna next screencast is gonna deal with 1.2. We're gonna talk about grade, angle of elevation, and distance. So stay tuned for that. Thank you.